Good afternoon y buenos dias. Today we're going to be talking about architecture. Specifically, the architecture found here, there, and por allá. Specifically, the architecture of now, then, and way back when. All over Mexico and all over Mexico's timeline, we have been able to find so many beautiful pieces of artwork, and its buildings are absolutely no exception. So let's dive in and check out the building found way back when and por allá. The Temple of the Warriors, or Templo de los Guerreros, which is located in Chichen Itza. Found in the time known as way back when, or in other words, built during the Classic period that was from 600 to 900 Common Era. This temple has a similarity in resemblance to the Temple B that's found at the Toltec capital of Tula. It's approached with a broad stairway with a plain stepped ramp on each side. Made up of 4 platforms, 200 round and square columns on the south and west side, it spans 40 meters wide. Found alongside the south wall of the temple, you can see about 200 columns, which of course gives it the name Temple of 1,000 Columns. Some of the figures standing in spot can be seen sporting headdresses and weaponry, while others show skirted figures bearing offerings. Kind of a mixed message of emotions one has when entering, no? Guidance of the bearers, and the threat of the ready-to-fight warriors all present and accounted for. And many people still come to see this marvel of a temple today. It's actually the most visited archaeological site in Mexico, boasting a humble 2.7 million in 2017 alone. Moving away from the south wall and heading up north, you can find a Chacmul statue of a reclined figure supporting itself on their elbows, holding what seems to be a bowl or a type of dish on its stomach. We know that the Chacmul were messengers of the gods, and they would use religious offerings using the dish or plate of holding that was placed to chill on their stomach. Aside from the dish, the Chacmuls had many a water imagery that were associated with Tlaloc, the rain god. Not a bad spot to handle offerings, having people gently place things on your favorite bowl in your stomach. Let's jump forward into the then and let's travel over there to meet up at San Pedro and San Pablo Tepozcolula. This beautiful chapel was constructed with the newer technique introduced to the Mixtec people known as stone vaulting. The chapel is open to the outside with various arches in and out the building. Now worn due to time, the bricks have all turned into different colors of beige, white, and browns. The symmetrical entrance has stone figures on either side, complete with tall engaged columns. As they ascend, 2 more figures stand on either side. Complete with the bell tower that follows the left column, this is one of the few moments of asymmetry that really gives a personality to the building itself. The building just doesn't seem to stop with its planned beauty of angles and archways, but just outside on the grassy field sits the atrium, where dozens of hundreds of thousands of tourists still gather to take it all in on this day. In complete opposite of its beauty is of course the fact that this chapel, as well as the other chapels that were built during this era, were designed by Europeans to convert indigenous people into Christianity. It's of course because of their influence where the majority of the art and the architecture comes from, elements such as rounded archways, the facades, and the engaged columns. However, they also took inspiration from the indigenous people's traditional styles, such as the low-relief sculptures on the entrance of the building. One of the many examples of being able to combine 2 vastly different cultures and styles of buildings, San Pedro y San Pablo as a collaboration was definitely viewed as the beginning of New Spain, the land today known as Mexico. Conquering the land was a fairly quick process, but the spiritual conquest would take much more time. In order to achieve this, the Spaniards built chapels all over Mesoamerica. This one in particular was a Dominican-run chapel in the Tepozcolula area. And finally, we're going to travel here and now to present-day Mexico City. The majority of Mexico City is built on top of the old buildings where Tenochtitlan once stood. There are dozens of architectural beauties to be found on every block. However, our focus today is that of the Ministry of Public Education, or as it was once known as La Encarnación. part of the ex-convent of Santa María de la Encarnación, founded in 1594 by the nuns of the Conceptionist order as a convent for the Spanish and the Criollo women. It wouldn't take long for the convent to become one of the richest and largest in the city, and boasted esteemed guests such as the Marchioness Calderón de la Barca, telling the nuns that the convent had been one of the largest and finest she had ever been to. The convent had to go under major repairs in the 18th century due to deterioration. The convent itself was disbanded in the 1860s. However, the church that was associated would continue to function in the building until 1917, as the church had become state property and would house many institutions until after the Mexican Revolution. The building would see major remodeling again in the 1920s. In the following year, muralist Diego Rivera would paint huge murals that would cover the walls of the two courtyards. These are especially worthy of note as they were Diego's first major large-scale mural project. Taking a little break from tradition and what most buildings in Mexico City were doing, the main facade, which faces San Ildefonso Street, was designed with a more classical Greek look than a Spanish look. The decorations on the bottom level have a softer, more rounded appearance, in contrast to the upper two, which have much sharper lines. In the top center, there are a group of sculptures which represent the Greek gods Apollo, Minerva, and Dionysus. These were done by Ignacio Asunsolo, placed to represent and emphasize the building's now secular function. And of course, bringing it back towards tradition and what other buildings in Mexico City are doing, off to the ends of the facade are Aztec and Spanish-style weapons. Currently, the building is owned by the Secretariat of Public Education in Mexico, where it operates to this day. And with that, we are going to conclude our tour of Mexico's buildings and architectures through the ages and around the map. We hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and that of course in due time, you are able to visit your favorite building once again.